J1, I appreciate the time. We're here at the second annual Howard Hip Hop Studies Conference. I'm representing Hip Hop Can Save America. You're representing SiriusXM Satellite Radio. If you could give folks just an idea of your title there, what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, good to be sitting down with you. My name is Josh J1 Raiford. I'm Vice President of Music Programming for SiriusXM and Pandora. I oversee pretty much hip hop programming on both platforms, which encompasses great shows like Sway in the Morning, Torre, and various others. On Pandora side, I'm responsible for our great stations and playlists and basically helping to create the environments where artists can get their music out. We work with the labels on different marketing strategies or rollout plans. And again, we're just trying to amplify hip hop on both platforms.
Yeah. One of the things and that's a busy job. One of the things that I look at streaming platforms, Pandora, Sirius, different than terrestrial radio. To some degree, I think you have to focus on being multi-generational.
Sure.
The age range of people who pay for these premium services is higher than like what might listen to terrestrial radio.
Right.
Coming from hip hop, coming from New York, coming from the Mecca, if I may, what goes into your mind when you're thinking about programming to meet some of the challenges of a multi-generational and sort of multi-subgenre audiences that might be tuned in on any given day to any given hip hop related channel?
So I think that's one of the things that makes SiriusXM so unique and so great, especially for the hip hop audience, is we have so many different channels or pockets that you could go to, whether it's on the satellite or on the app. And it's not just like, hey, we're creating these channels. Yes, we have homegrown channels, but we have a partnership with the LL Cool J, right, for Rock the Bells Radio. We still have our partnership with him and Paul Rosenberg for Shade 45. You have Hip Hop Nation, which plays contemporary hip hop. You have stations or channels like Fly that play 90s and 2000s hip hop and R&B. So whatever type of hip hop you're into, whether it's somebody, the soccer mom that wants to hear classics on the 90s, but sometimes wants to hear what her kids are playing, we have that. And so we just have many opportunities. And it's not just for listeners, it's also for the artists themselves. L created a platform where you can have a legacy artist play some of their new music as well as their classics, which I think is very important.
Yeah, and was not, you don't see that very often, because of course you have the terrestrial radios that went to the throwback format, but they didn't do that. They didn't give the legacy artists who are still releasing. You wouldn't hear Nas's new music on those throwback stations. So
right. L's done a great job with that, and so is Eminem and Paul Rosenberg with Shade 45. They do a lot of great work or give opportunities for legacy artists or those underground artists to get that mainstream look and get paid for their spins, because SiriusXM does pay out for their spins, paying the artists directly. It's something that terrestrial radio doesn't do.
Right, indeed. You're here at the conference. There's a concert tonight. Lady London's performing. Sirius is doing some great stuff. There's a partnership. We'll talk about that. You're doing a talk later today, right?
Yeah.
A master class kind of deal. What can people expect from what are you going to deliver?
Yeah,
And who's it aimed at?
So really it's a conversation about the evolution of digital streaming in hip hop and how the two have grown with each other over the years. So really I'm just gonna talk about kind of the history, and you probably know this, when streaming first came out, hip hop was hit the hardest, right? Because the industry had to learn how to monetize the streams. So labels were losing money, and who was the first to get cut? The hip hop and urban departments. So we didn't know if our urban department was even gonna exist. But with both technology, the litigation finally caught up to the technology, and it created a big opportunity for hip hop where it exploded once again and became the #1 genre in the world, not just from a pop cultural standpoint, but if you look at the number and consumption, right, the numbers are there. Right. So we're just going to have those type of conversations, and then I'm going to open it up for a Q&A for the students to ask whatever they.
Yeah, that's cool. I do a couple talks, and one of them is looking at technology through the years as hip hop has invented or reinvented or remixed technology, and I love connecting those dots because you can go back to mixtapes and then put that into Peer-to-Peer, Napster, and hip hop was always kind of doing it, the way it wasn't supposed to be done, but doing
right.
it.
I mean, remember DJ Drama
Right.
got rated for putting out mixtapes.
Yeah.
And then fast forward almost 15 or 20 years later, he gets a Grammy for mixtape. So that's like the full pendulum swing right there.
Right. So obviously hip hop has always been the creative force behind the creative force in the music business. So I guess that keeps going with streaming and the opportunities that you're presenting and providing. Speaking more broadly, again, let's talk about this partnership while you're here. SiriusXM teaming up with several HBCUs, including Howard. What is that partnership or the initiatives that you're looking to connect with these universities? What's that all about, and in particular Howard?
I mean, well, for me, I went to HBCU, I went to Morehouse, and I know my experience there really opened me up to different types of music all over the country. I mean, you know, growing up in New York, we're kind of biased a little bit. We're okay. But when I went to Morehouse, it really opened me up to like a 3-6 Mafia and Project That, to Swisher House, to the Bay Area, hyphy movement, wherever, right? And so I feel like HBCUs are just a great resource as far as just Black culture and tastemakers and what's coming out next. There was a reason back in the day that artists would do these college shows for damn near free, because they wanted that audience. And it's still a very important audience at the end of the day, not only from a consumer standpoint, but also just for future leaders who are going to be in the industry. So I think partnerships with places like Howard, who have really invested in their hip hop curriculum and music culture overall, being a resource to them, and also them being a resource to us, is a partnership that just makes sense.
Yeah. There's been some things in play already, right?
So I mean, from a larger scale, from what we've done with HBCUs, is we have our Pathways program. SiriusXM has a Pathways program, which gives opportunities or full-time jobs to recent HBC graduates. We've done pop-outs at different HBCUs for their homecoming. So we've done Morehouse, and then we recently do FAMU. We're here at Howard for a hip hop conference. We recently did an event with Little Tyler on Morehouse's campus, where he just went through and talked about his new album and answered questions from the students. So again, I think it's a two-way street. Yeah, it's great for the colleges and the students, but it's also good for the artists and us as well, because they get to get that feedback from the students, who are the ones who are like driving the culture, right, and listening to their music.
Yeah, I think it's also very respectful synergy, because, as you know, like the folks who work in the music industry didn't always reflect the people that were making it. Yeah. So the more of that, obviously, the merrier. I want to ask a question about you being a practitioner of hip hop, right? You're doing some actual the arts, right? Yeah, the arts throughout your life. How does that sort of inform your job? In other words, we know that, music, and, you're at a place that relies on data and algorithms and all that stuff, but you also, you're from the culture, so you want to protect and preserve and promote the culture as a whole.
Absolutely.
How do you get a chance to do that in your role? And how, there's some challenges to that, I would imagine, because, sometimes, numbers do lie, but whatever. But just have it in your position, being able to be in that position to bring some of the culture into the corporate.
Sure. I think for me, I was blessed to have the background of starting out as a DJ.
Yeah.
So that was essentially where my musical background started, curating experiences for different people or different situations, whether I was in a club, corporate event, a wedding, a party and stuff. So when I'm listening to music, whether looking at legacy data, current data, I still have that feeling in me. I could look at the data and sometimes say, okay, that makes sense. Or, okay, I think the data might be a little bit off on this one. Let's give it a little bit more time to develop, because I know that this can develop into something, right? So I think
There's some gut that
still work. Because at the end of the day, music is still a feeling, it's still an emotion, and still an experience. So you can't neglect that. At the same time, you can't neglect the data that's available to us. So you have to have that happy medium. So I always try to do that with myself and encourage anybody on my team saying, hey, let's not just look at the data. Let's use the data as a piece of the puzzle. Right. But let's look at other factors. What's the story with the artist? What's going on in their hometown? What is the overall plan? Right. How do you feel about the music? Is this something that you would listen to? And I think also, I wasn't always just in the music industry all my life. Like, I've had regular 9-to-5s. I loaded trucks for UPS. I was a waiter. I did mortgage sales. So I was that person doing a 9-to-5, fighting traffic, listening to the radio, listening to music. And I always put myself in that person's shoes. Is this something that I would want to listen to coming to and from work?
Okay. Yeah. We're connected back to reality, of course.
You have to, because at the end of the day, that's who people are making music for. Right? I make it for the listener. A for me,
Right.
A for the company, right? For the people that pay their hard-earned money for our service.
That's right. Yes, I'm one of them. So by the way,
And we appreciate
yeah, that's fine. Very good. We said bringing it back to the reality, talking about technology, talking about AI, talking about how some of these, how are those advances in those fields affecting, what happens behind the closed doors of your company and your job?
I think, like any new technology, it's one of those things that you have to do your research and education on.
Yeah.
If you ask 5 different people about AI, you'll probably get 5 different answers. I think it's just, again, it's like how when streaming technology first came out.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what it was. Some people embraced it, some people were scared of it. I think you just have to learn about it and continue to monitor how it's going to impact us from a cultural standpoint and a financial standpoint, and just kind of be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're just waiting and then the opportunity passing by, you don't take advantage of it, right? Like, case in point, Blockbuster.
Right.
They had an opportunity to probably be first as far as streaming or doing digital movies and stuff like that, but they were like, no, this is it.
Right.
So I think
Blockbuster is this old chain of stores because that's how bad it is.
that's how bad
it is.
Right. But it was literally maybe 15 years ago.
Right.
So I think, the things that we're doing is just like most other companies is doing our research. It's seeing how it fits into what we do on a daily basis, without corrupting the integrity of the music or the listener.
Got it. Pretty much done for you. You can get out of here now.
Oh, okay.
But one question I want to ask you. So the name of my show is, the audacity of it is that hip hop can save America, right? It's the name of the show. It's a great name. Thank you. It's a podcast. It's a live stream. It's a podcast that could use a streaming platform someday. I mean, I don't know, just hypothetically. It's a really good show. So what we do is we tend to look at the intersections of hip hop and ways that can help improve society and uplift humanity.
Yeah.
Including fields like education or health and wellness or science and technology. All these, like, to some surprising, but to us, like, no-brainer intersections. Without telling you too much of why I named it that or our mantra or our philosophy, what does it mean to you to think that hip hop can help improve livelihoods, and communities around the country?
I mean, there's so many ways that it can't do it. I can't get into all of them, but I'll just go through some that pop up off the top of my mind, right? So from an artist standpoint, you hear a lot of artists say that hip hop saved their life, like from either an environment standpoint, what they were doing, but even from an emotional standpoint, it's been an outlet for people to get out their frustrations or whatever demons they may have inside. You'll hear artists say, I put it all on the trap.
Yeah.
Right? It's also created environments or opportunities for people around hip hop, whether you're talking about attorneys, entertainment attorneys, business managers, publishing companies. Now, with social media being a big piece of the puzzle, digital marketing managers, social media managers, influencers, there's so many people who are tied to the hip hop ecosystem that eat off of hip hop
You don't have to just be the guy on stage.
Right. You don't have to be the guy on stage. And a lot of times, like, I tell artists, okay, you might not make it as an artist, but if you're penny sharp, have you thought about being a songwriter? Well, you know how much money you can make and your career could be long, and you can still walk down the block and not get harassed, have to walk around with security.
Good listener.
So,
Yeah.
I think there's just so many ways that hip hop can save people and save America from a mental standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and just from an overall humanity standpoint as far as opportunities. I mean, we talked about DJ Drama, talked about politics. Remember, you were there. You remember when they were trying to ban hip hop.
That's right.
On Capitol Hill.
That's right.
And then me and you were part of a beautiful hip hop ceremony on that same Capitol Hill. What was it, like a year ago?
Yeah, just about.
Right, exactly, where you had lawmakers coming in, speaking and praising it.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that is just like in full spectrum of what it could be. Or somebody like a Jay-Z who started out as a rapper and it's turned into a businessman.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It just, there's so many different ways they can grow. And now this man is curating the super.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's really refreshing to have someone that understands that and comes in with that knowledge in a position like yours. Thank you. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for your time here. Appreciate you. Thank you. Let's do this again.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
that was good seeing you.
Yeah, man.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick.